The theory of what's happening with the black family, black wealth, and the fear of a black man is the black American experience that we truly look at, plagued by a traumatic history and countless chances of accountability from all parties involved. Join us, and let's get in tune with the Transform You Black Commentary Show with your host, Marcus Hart. Now here's your host. Hello, my people. Welcome back to another installment of the Black Commentary Podcast. We have a very great guest that I'm just excited to talk to, that I know many of you, you probably got the notification this morning that this guest was going to be on. Today I have with us Kevin Brown. He's an African-American that's an accredited investor that works in the tech industry. He has been in the tech industry for about over 20 years. He has saved, invested, and now he is on track to be one of the leading black equity and crowdfunding investors. So this is his first time being in the podcast format. So let's bring him on up. How's it going, Kevin?
Hey, Marcus. How's it going?
Yeah, so it's going out. It's going good. It's going very outstanding. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
I gave a brief, just intro into who you are and what you're bringing. But if you can, for our audience, just kind of give us a little overlay of why you're doing what you're doing.
Sure. So hello everyone. My name's Kevin Brown. I've been in the tech industry and worked there for 20 years. I've been at the same company for 17 years, which is one of the largest tech companies in the world. So in that sense, I've gotten to work with a lot of great people. But during that time period, I invested in the public stock market pretty much that entire time. And, what that has allowed me to do is actually build up wealth and become to the point where I'm now an accredited investor. And so if I could do that, there's many more Blacks that can do similar. So that's one of the reasons I want to tell my story, so that people can hear about it and be inspired to do similar. We've heard a lot in the past about, entrepreneurship being a path to wealth, and that's a great path. However, there are other paths, such as the path that I'm taking, which is being in the private sector, working, gaining knowledge, and then investing and doing that sort of thing, such that, I could build wealth for my family and others. So one of the things that I wanted to mention is more recently, I started investing in equity crowdfunding. And for those of you that don't know what equity crowdfunding is basically, for years, many people, regular people, everyday people, could not invest in private companies. Mm-hmm. Take Facebook, for example. Facebook had everyone put their images, their videos, everything on Facebook. However, regular everyday people weren't able to invest in Facebook. So Facebook grew privately to billions and billions and billions of dollars before anyone could, invest in Facebook. So equity crowdfunding, which has been around for the last couple of years, changes that. Now, regular everyday people can invest as little as $100 to invest in these private companies. And it's an amazing, amazing thing that's happening, where we now can partake in investing in these private companies. So you have a company that grows privately, and let's say you invested $100 as an example, and it grows 1,000x. That's $100,000, right?
Wow.
Using simple math. So it's an incredible thing that's happening, and I'd like two things: more Black investors to be in that space, as well as more entrepreneurs to utilize that. There's been some great ones thus far, that have utilized it, but I think we can have a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's a real great vehicle, especially when we consider that the wealth gap, between blacks and their counterparts are like 12.2%,
Right.
and then you here you are, you stand at like, being part of the 1% that's like doing something that like I and I gotta ask you this, it was it, was it just your own, will that, you decided to like, go get the education about these different forms and tools of investing to grow this wealth, um, or was it more, or do you feel like, it was kind of like you grew up in a family that kind of like was already, doing something similar, and so, but
It's a good question. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. When I first started my career, I actually went to an HBCU in Clark, Atlanta. And then I wasn't investing right out of college. I didn't know anything about
right,
investing, and I didn't. But maybe 3 years in, I started researching investing and learning about it. And then I started paying myself first and actually investing. And I did
okay,
that systematically. Every 2 weeks you get paid, you invest. Next two
yeah,
weeks you invest, and did that systematically, both in good times and bad. So like 2007, 2008, we had that recession. Everyone got nervous. They started pulling money out. Even those time periods continued to invest. So after time, there's a compounding effect that happens, and you know it it works out well. On the equity crowdfund front, so I mentioned I've always invested in public companies.
right,
One of the challenges with that is, generally speaking, there aren't that many Black public companies, right?
mhm,
There's maybe two handfuls that are reputable, and that's a huge problem.
yeah,
And for me, I wanted my portfolio to reflect the population,
right,
right? And the only way that I could do that was to put a good share into equity crowdfunding. So 25% of my equity crowdfund portfolio is in Black businesses. And, then the other 75% is in others. But it allows my overall portfolio to have a greater share of Black businesses in it, which I couldn't do via the public market, if
yeah,
that makes sense. Like, you look at Warren Buffett, he's one of the most diverse investors, they say. But
yeah,
if you look at his portfolio, I'm sure he probably has 0% Black businesses, or 0.2 or something like that.
yeah.
So that's a huge problem. We need to get more people investing in Black businesses. And so that's important.
Well, that's very cool, and and that's very informative that you brought that on. And for those who are just joining us, we're talking with Kevin Brown, equity crowdfunding investor, who's definitely giving some education today, and also exploring just what he has been doing over the countless years here. So what we do know is that, like, a lot of Black founders, you alluded to it, they receive like only about roughly 1% of like venture capital funding, um, and this could be largely due to the unconscious bias that you kind of pointed out, with like even with Warren Buffett probably not even having like zero, um,
Right.
Black businesses or Black corporations on his portfolio. But the reasons why we should, like, maybe start kind of turning about face and look at, like, okay, there's some two top reasons why we should. Um, Diversification is one, and then potential. Can you maybe like hone in on the potential part of it, and what you have seen, from like, just like, investing in small Black businesses through this way of investing?
Yeah, I think access to capital has been a huge problem in Black businesses. We all know that. We've heard the stories about it. And a lot of people have ideas, they just don't have the capital to take those ideas and grow them. And so this is a great way of doing that. And there are a lot, I'm telling you, a lot of great businesses right now on these equity crowdfund platforms that are using this in the right way. And they will have the potential to grow into very, very good companies. And that is a problem that we have in our community, that we're not getting the capital to actually grow the business. Even if it's a business with great potential, we don't get the cap. We get a very, very small percentage of the capital, and therefore we're not able to grow our businesses properly. So this helps with that. The other side it helps with is along the lines of the investors themselves. This is a potential assistance in the income inequality that we have, because now we can actually invest in these private companies and participate in the upside. So it's very important.
Yeah, and what I love most about investing into like these companies that like demonstrate like strong potential is that like they're gonna be solving different problems and because they got different they obviously got different solutions coming from where the communities that they come from
Right.
where they bred out of. um
They're also creating jobs. They're doing
yeah,
amazing things. Yeah.
amazing things.
Yeah.
So like what we know that we know that Silicon Valley like really labels the friends and family fundraising aspect, like, but honestly, we really don't have that advantage. We don't have that family and friends fundraising. So
Right.
with some of the micro investing, um, are people able to get involved with like small amount, or do they need a huge like like,
Yeah,
amount
it's
of
a
money?
small amount that you can do $100, every month, different company, and if, one of those companies does very, very well, then you have the potential to get, the upside from it. So it's definitely a powerful model that exists, and we should definitely put that as part of an overall portfolio, not just that, but other things too. But that's definitely a good one. Yeah.
What are some of the other myths you have heard about this way, this strategy, this investing strategy?
Some people may think it's not real
Yeah,
because
yeah.
because the way that investing in private companies work is you need an actual exit event to happen to get your money back, right? So the
Hmm.
public stock market, you invest. If you want to pull it out, you can pull it out the next day or the next month by selling the stock. Whereas in these equity crowdfund deals, you invest and then there needs to be some sort of event for you to get your money back. The event could be the company sells itself, the company raises more money in a Series A, the company goes public. So there's various events that could occur, and that might take 7 to 10 years before you actually see that return. However, on my front, I can tell you that it is real because I've actually had exits happen, and so I can tell you that this is real. It's not fake. It's not something that's imaginary. I've had a company go public in the stock exchange, and then I've also had a company get sold. And in both of those events, an exit did occur, and there was, so it is a real thing. We just need to invest in it.
So in turn, it is like a real good long term, tool for for putting your money away, without like it. I guess like worried about it, not being there.
Correct. Yes. It is definitely a long-term play. It's not a short-term. It's not liquid. You can't once you put it in, it's not very easy to get out. But it's in the percentage, there is risk to it. The percentages of companies that do well are probably relatively small. But however, you're looking for those that do really well, and thus your overall portfolio will do well. And that's kind of how the VCs play the same game. So you're kind of like a mini VC or an angel investor, and you're hoping that you've invested in, the right founder that's going to continue to grow the business and create a return.
Yeah, and the cool part about this too is that, like, if we look at like what the stats say, um, there's only about 80% of VC firms that have a black investor.
Right.
So so if I'm a small business, and I'm looking for capital, like, and I want to work with, like, and I want to receive that funds potentially from a black investor. um I think this is a really good route to
Yeah.
go. And
Yeah.
it seems like you're not really, giving up much if you were to work with like one of those venture capitalists that that's going to be probably one like 80% of your companies.
Right. Right.
So it's
Exactly.
crazy numbers. We see what Goldman Sachs did recently. They dedicating about $10 billion over 10 years. And they specifically routed that money to black women. Um, have you got a chance to, like, explore what that was about? And have you heard any stories coming out of that lately?
Not per se, but there's been a lot of good things in that front that's been happening over the last year. You've been seeing the Netflix guy, he allocated, 150 million towards black businesses, the Goldman Sachs story. So there's been a lot of positive things that's been happening in the last year or so around in that area. And hopefully it actually continues and the money does get allocated to the people that, it
Right.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's always the biggest concern. Is just like, well, okay, you said this is available, but how do we access it? And then, once you found out the application process can, like take months on end.
Right.
These awards are like not given out, like, so quickly, versus uh, this solution of micro investing. Tapping into a micro investing. How soon do these small businesses like usually get those get access to those that crowd fund?
Yeah, normally they they list with what's called an equity crowdfund portal. It has to be an
Hmm.
approved portal. And
Right.
typically it takes them, I've seen anywhere from 3 to 6 months to raise the amount that they're looking for. And then the funds are distributed to them like right after they close their campaign. So it's a pretty good process. However, you have to be able to raise the funds. People need to see, the value in your business. You have to have an actual investable business. There's a lot of businesses, they're great small businesses, but they may not be, investable per se. But yeah, a business that has all those things, they can raise within, 3 to 6 months and then have the capital distributed to them. So,
Hey, that sounds a lot better than, over a year, or like, or not getting it at all. Especially when you're competing with so many other people, that doesn't look, that don't look like you. So, uh, which of course, some of these platforms, like, will have a diverse uh,
right.
blend of.
Specifically, it's good for, I've found for like consumer based businesses where you're trying to get your customer as your investor also, that because that's like a powerful model when you
Yeah.
have your customer per se as an investor. So I found those types of businesses do pretty well. I mean, I can list off businesses if you like that are raising right now, but
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you give us a few of them. Hey, this you list.
Yeah, one cool one that's raising right now is called BSP Comics. They're basically what they've done is there's a founder. His name's Manuel Godoy. He's done a great job. He's basically allocated 20% of his company for this raise, and basically it's a black comic book app with all black comic book
Oh
creators.
wow,
So you should your audience should check it out. It's called BSP Comics, and it's just all black comic books on the app. The app launched in the iTunes App Store in May, and it launched at the level of the Amazon Kindle. So it was like number 3 in the books category, above Marvel, above DC Comics. So he's been doing a great job, and that's actually available to be invested in right now. So far, he's raised, I think, 600K, and he's looking
wow,
to raise 3 million. And the majority of those people are the readers of his comic books, and they're also investors. And a lot of them are black. So if he does very, very well, it's going to be a major deal for the black comic book creators as well as his investors. So that's
yeah.
an example of the power in the model that's happening right now.
Oh yeah, that's very incredible and very impressive. Like like this. See, this is the type of like things you won't hear about. It's like, and when you get exposed to this type of like information, it's like, oh man, this is it. Yeah, I will definitely love to get down on that and really support that. Um, and just to reiterate, we talked about it earlier, the fact that like this here's another company that's just solving different problems, and, with a different solution. um so
Yeah, one of the issues he's solving is that the black comic book creatives, their comics were getting buried in these other
yeah,
platforms. And
yeah,
so he's put them all in one platform. So right now, I think he's got 30 or 40 creatives,
mhm,
and we're reading the comics. People are loving them. They're high quality. So he's solving a big problem in a good way. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. um so this is definitely community level investment, where this could help a whole entire community, if we got more investors on involved.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, for me, I come from the tech space, and in tech, where blacks are underrepresented in the tech space, right?
Mhm.
We're underrepresented. I like to see, more blacks get into, the math and the sciences,
Yeah.
because just being out of those fields um, also causes the income inequality, because those are the fields with the highest growth. And if we're not in those fields, then it's also causing a huge amount of income inequality. And math has been one of the highest excluders, I would say, of blacks from those high powered fields. So
Yeah.
I think we just need to, do better in those fields and get ourselves into those fields, and so that we can also participate, in the upside. So yeah.
Indeed. Now, you mentioned it earlier. You kind of breezed through it a little bit. It's just like I'm gonna kind of shape this question in a different way, but uh, just like what should someone who's new to doing what you're doing, and they really want to really going to get involved and really want to start helping some of these small businesses, these founders, get access to funds. Um, what is there any particular knowledge that they maybe should like kind of get themselves breast up on, or uh, so that they can properly select companies?
Yeah, a lot of it is, you know, common sense. You have to do your own due diligence on any investment, but you also have to be able to kind of figure out what's good versus what's bad. Like, not all Black businesses that raise, I'm going to invest in. But there are certain ones that, you're really looking for like the cream of the crop, or what you think,
Hmm.
is the cream of the crop, or someone that's looking at a problem that others may not be looking at. There's one that's a really good one. It's called pigeon loans. You know
Okay.
how people loan each other money.
Yeah.
It's looking to solve that issue, and it's doing it in a very unique way. So you're looking for something that's unique, something that's different, something that has growth potential. And yeah, then you go from there. You can also, for the public stock market part, you can also, do a lot of reading and, and investing. I encourage everyone to also invest in the public stock market, because that's one of the largest wealth generators that's around, including real estate. My thing isn't real estate so much,
Yeah.
but I think we need to definitely be in the public stock market as investors.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, there's so much that has come to light about the stock market now. I think a lot of why there was so much why there's been so much hesitation with blacks getting into trading and investing. It's
Right.
like, this the mistrust with the financial
Right.
industry.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, so because like we know in black culture, you got to say what you mean,
Right.
and do as you mean, so your word is everything.
Right.
Um, so, is there anything in stocks that, like, I mean, there's so many different ways to trade stocks now. Um, was
Yeah,
there
this is a beautiful time period for stocks. There's so much. 30 years ago, you actually had to call a stockbroker, put this
yeah.
in. Now you just, get it on an app and it's done. So
Right.
that's not an excuse anymore. We have all these great platforms to do it. We just need
Mhm.
to now do it in a concerted way over long periods of time. Sometimes we look for like quick hits, but
Mhm.
long term is often, a good strategy. Yeah.
Okay. And we got our friend over on Twitch here, who's been following us. Um,
Sure.
so, what job is Mr. Kevin Brown doing? Uh, and I think he, been answering that throughout the broadcast. But if you want to reiterate that for our audience out there.
Sure. Yeah, I work for one of the larger tech companies. I'm a cloud engineer, a senior cloud engineer. So I help uh, our customers get up on the cloud. If you don't know what the cloud is, it's basically, you know, 30 years ago, you had a business, you'd put servers in your business and put databases in a server farm and all that kind of stuff. Nowadays, there are these huge companies that are hosting these servers, and they call that the cloud. And the business can then just uh, access these cloud resources. There's databases that can go in the cloud, VMs that can go in the cloud.
Yeah.
So I help customers to get up and running on the cloud.
Awesome. So yeah, and for those anyone else out there, if you have a question or a comment you want to just drop down, we'll pull it up for you, and I get that read for you. Or we almost about to the top of the half hour here, where we're gonna be parting ways here soon. But you can always leave us comments and leave a review as well. And if you got anything specifically for Mr. Brown that you want to know more about, the easiest way is to head over to transformupodcast.com. I will have his best contact information too in the episode description as well. You'll be able to get that on any podcast app where you'll be able to see that in the episode notes or on our YouTube or our YouTube channel, the Black Commentary Show. Mr. Brown, so like is there anything else specifically you would like to maybe just give to encourage the listeners and viewers out there about just all that you're doing or just anything else out of your background that you might feel might be real helpful today?
Sure. Yeah. Just continue to invest. Always remember to pay yourself first, even if you're a worker. Just make a concerted effort before you pay a bill. Pay yourself first. And just do that over a long period of time. And when you do that over a long period of time, you'll see that it'll compound over time. And then try to pick good things, invest in good things with high growth potential. And if you're able to do that, then, instead of like a low percentage of growth, you'll actually get like a fairly high percentage of growth. Like if someone, instead of buying an iPhone, bought Apple stock, 10 years ago or however many years ago, that's a high growth thing. And the stuff like that was what I did over time. So you're going to want to, look at today and kind of look out and say, what do I think is the high growth industry or technology or whatever it may be, and try to invest in that and invest in the things that you use. Also, that's a good predictor. If you're using it and a lot of other people are using it, a lot of times that is also a good investment.
Yeah. And so, and we're learning more and more, that like, you don't need that much to just start investing, we under this impression, and I think is badly marketed over the years, that you got to have a ton of money to invest. It just what you started doing, just taking a little bit out your paycheck and and putting it towards like building wealth and investing. It's just remarkable, and I think we all can learn from that. Just 20%, it's not bad. So what? There's a lot of platforms out there, to get involved in equity crowdfunding. Do you have a favorite? I know we don't really endorse shows here. It does other platforms without money,
Sure.
but like just for the audience to get an idea, what's been working for you.
Sure. The one that I use primarily is called WeFunder, WEFUNDER, WeFunder.com. And they have the BSP comics that I mentioned earlier, which I think, is a potential good investment for Black. Not recommending investments per se, but I think that's a good one specifically for Black investors. So WeFunder.com. There's others like Republic and other platforms. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a ton of them out there. Yeah, and again, if you guys would like you can Google, of course, but if you like some help with like exploring the different system platforms and all of that, I'm sure Mr. Brown would be more than helpful to you, more than a help to you. So as far as how we can get in touch with you, or anything else, or any links out there you want to put out there, how can we do that?
Sure. I primarily go by the name Math Society. So my name, whenever I'm signed up anywhere, it's mainly Math Society. So mathsociety@yahoo.com. My background is in math, and I've always, enjoyed math. And so that's what I go by. So mathsociety@yahoo.com is one way I can be reached.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. You truly are a blessing to us today, and you truly are doing some incredible work out there. I'm definitely, definitely, I am inspired, and I know a lot of our audience out there is inspired as well to get to trading, and also, maybe even, if they got a small business that, that needs some funding, can put it on one of these platforms and really start,
Absolutely.
reaping the benefits right away. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you for tuning in today. Make sure you do take the due diligence right now of sharing this wonderful podcast episode with someone you know, someone you don't know. Hit that share button right now, however you are viewing, however you are watching, and of course, leave comments. Comments are totally appreciated. Um, I'm your host, Marcus Hart, with Kevin Brown. Until next time.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.